Good, good. Everything's going well. Thank you, everyone, for joining in to our fourth. Can you believe that, man? Four LinkedIn Lives. It's gonna be a good
Yeah,
one.
when did we start this? About over a month ago, 2 months ago?
Yeah, right around.
Yeah, time flies. Can't believe this is our
Time
fourth
does
episode
fly.
already.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
But we'll have a
awesome, man.
fun episode today.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's new with you, man?
Nothing much, nothing much. I just got the vaccine vaccine earlier yesterday, and it was a fun experience. Just finally getting vaccinated. It's my turn now. But you haven't been vaccinated now, Solar?
I know I haven't yet. Still trying to find out. What's the better one? If it's Pfizer, if it's Moderna, AstraZeneca, J&J. But who knows? But you haven't grown like a third arm or like a third eye or nothing like that. No, no weird
No,
side effects.
nothing of the sorts of that nature. But I did
Well, that's
have
good.
some side effects that were
Uh,
particularly tough. I got the Johnson & Johnson one, so that's the one
mhm.
shot one.
Oh,
But
good.
yeah, I had like that night. I had a fever, just could not sleep. And it
Oh,
was worse than
wow.
my COVID experience because I had COVID as well. But
Yikes, man.
just for that night, it was really bad. But
Mhm.
I'm just glad to be vaccinated and to finally feel safe, I guess, in a way.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, thank God that you're a lot better now, and you got the vaccine, so it's over with, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Definitely keep us updated. But I think you have some market news for us, don't you?
Yeah, let's not get carried away in vaccine slander. So just to start off, as every episode as we do with some market news. Late on early morning Friday, Biden passed the stimulus bill, 1.9 trillion. It includes $1,400 checks for everyone now, pretty much as long as you make under 75,000. But adult dependents are considered eligible for them now. So me and you are gonna check Solar. So that should be fun. Moving on, Bitcoin is boasting all-time highs. It touched 60,000 yesterday, and I think it's sitting just right below that. But continuing to tear it up this year and last year. Bitcoin has had a great run this year. Moving on, despite a rocky beginning to March, the S&P and Dow are also at all-time highs, and something tells me that this stimulus will only keep things going and chugging. In regards to our last podcast, Solar, ARK saw its funds right after we talked about it drop 10 to 15% with a big correction there. Did you see that? Did you see that happen? Oh, I guess Solar's not
Oh, I'm
in the room
sorry.
with.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I did see that. That was insane. Not only was there large corrections, but there was actually like a $460 million redemption from that fund, because of course Tesla was going down. Literally, I feel like every time we talk,
Yeah.
something happens in the market.
Yeah, the
I don't
game
know how.
game. We talk about GameStop, that immediately drops. Then we talk
Immediately
about
drops.
ARK, then that immediately drops. It's recovered since then. I think it had a 10% recovery,
Hmm.
but it's still down than it
Hmm.
was. But it was a big opportunity for buying. How high I saw it.
I,
But
I guess we have some weird gravitational pull toward the markets now, so we got to be a little
yeah,
bit careful with what we say.
I know. I hope the SEC doesn't go after us.
Hopefully
But
not.
on a happier note, for our final point, over 100 million doses have been administered already. I guess I'm
Awesome.
one of those.
Yeah,
So
cool.
that's about 10% or 15% of the country has at least gotten one shot, maybe a little bit above that, almost 20%. But we're hopefully by summer we're gonna live in normal lives again. But
Awesome.
moving on for today's topic, we're talking about the massive emerging market opportunity, which is the
Hmm.
continent of Africa, and the uniqueness this opportunity presents in terms of growth, investment, and innovation. And to help us gain context and perspective, Solar and I will be introducing and interviewing one of the brightest minds the Street Smarts has to offer, and who also happens to be a native African as well. So for today's topic, we are welcoming Jacob to the podcast. Hello, Jacob. How you doing?
Hey, Jacob,
Hey,
what's up, man?
Sparkle. I'm good, man. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here tonight.
No, I'm glad to see another familiar face on the podcast. I get sick of Solar's face. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love you, Solar. I love you,
You too,
Solar.
buddy. Yeah, you
But
too, man.
Jacob, we're just wondering if you could tell all the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background.
Absolutely. My name is Jacob Nyamu. I'm a finance major at Holt International Business School. At TSS, I'm a project manager, and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. Really happy and excited to answer some of your questions tonight.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Jacob. I know we had a little bit of conversation beforehand, and if you guys don't know Jacob, of course, he just said, but he's one of the great members of TSS. We all love him. He adds so much value. So we're very happy to have him here and give a little bit of his own personal story while also talking, as Paris said, about the emerging markets and what's going on with Africa currently. So, Jacob, what exactly, how exactly do you see this to be structured? Do you want to talk mainly the financials? Do you want to talk mainly about the more like macro and however you want to go.
I think the macro way is the best way to go.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
I
Yeah.
believe you have some media for us to share. Is that what we're waiting for right now? There it is. Wunderbar.
Perfect. So, Jacob, I have a question to yield you. Recently, the World Trade Organization has appointed Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as the new Director General. Can you please give a little bit of insight on who she is and what she brings to the table, and what are some of the challenges she aims to address as her new position she was appointed?
Yes, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she brings so much to the table. In the past, she's been finance minister in Nigeria, not once, but twice. She's had a great career at the World Bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great achievement for Africans and a great achievement for women also, given that she's the first woman and given she's the first African to be the Director General of the WTO. But one thing to note, Paris and Salar, it's an advisory kind of position. She really can't do much. She, does meeting minutes and supervises and leads meetings. Despite all of that, I just think, given her impressive track record, she brings so much, and I'm really hopeful that she will bring the World Trade Organization to the 21st century and just so much life and spice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure she will. And recently the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was proposed and signed in 2018, I believe in this January it was officially put in place, turning Africa into a free trade zone. Can you please tell us a little bit about more? How does this change? What are the effects have on the continent?
Yeah. So first of all, in the past we've had several trading agreements. For example, the EAC, which includes my country, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, but also we've had the SADC, which involves mostly southern countries in Southern Africa. But this one is different because it involves 35, a huge number of African nations. 35 out of the 55 states have ratified this agreement. As you know, the USMCA, previously known as NAFTA, just like any other trading agreement, this one is going to promote a lot of economic growth. The main premise for this particular agreement is to increase exports by up to $560 billion.
Wow.
And it does this by, of course, cutting a lot of red tape. But also a very interesting aspect of this trading agreement is it aims to empower women, have inclusive growth for women.
And it officially commenced trading this last January, right? In this year, 2021, correct?
That is correct. I wish it happened in a different time, given the COVID-19 pandemic, which has greatly affected foreign direct investment and everything else. But I think it will most definitely include just bring a lot of disposable income and help raise the standards of living for a lot of Africans.
That's wonderful.
See, a lot of economies benefit from this, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
And then, so what, in regards to this trade agreement, what certain economies should we see benefit? Obviously, all of Africa would benefit, but I was wondering if you can talk about a little bit about what are some of the leading economies of Africa and how we should see them progress, but not only in regards to this trade deal, but just within the last couple of years and going into the future, and why there's really just a lot of focus and profound interest in Africa in the last couple of years.
There's always been interest in Africa, Paris. But when it comes to the leading economies in Africa, I'm a little biased, given that I'm from Kenya. But in terms of GDP per capita, Nigeria is definitely on the top. South Africa, Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt. But as you can see on the graph, those are some of the fastest growing. I would say Ethiopia, Angola, and Kenya are one of the fastest growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa, and I think even the world in general too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. We've seen a lot of increased interest in Africa's potential from famous investors and CEOs such as Jack Dorsey and Jack Ma. They've been putting a lot of money into Africa, and I believe Jack Dorsey and Jay-Z just made a Bitcoin fund actually of $25 million, which is all going to go to Africa's development. But I was just kind of curious if you could talk about why are investors looking into Africa's economies now of all times?
Investors of For sure. Investors have always, as I said, they have always looked towards Africa. It's always been interesting. But why they've been looking into it for the past few years, I would say mostly because of three reasons. Number one, extensive natural resources. I'm talking untapped oil reserves. I'm talking hydroelectric power from rivers and lakes all across Africa. And I'm also talking, lithium, not vibranium, uranium, gold. There's a lot of natural resources that investors can look forward to. But also, the second reason I would say there is a very highly educated and young population. The median population in Africa is 18. And as you know, the younger, the more educated the workforce and population is, the more likely they are to embrace, say, technological advancements, but also contribute to the economy. They go to work and contribute toward the growth of their economy. And so I'd say those are the three main reasons. Actually, there's one more I almost forgot. There's been less regional conflicts. If you've been following the news, you've seen a few riots in, say, Nigeria or even Senegal. But I would say over time, the past few years, it's just been less regional conflict. And I would say those three main reasons, natural resources, a young, educated population, and more stability in governance and less regional conflict. Those are three very good reasons why investors are looking towards Africa.
Wow, thank you so much, Jacob, for going into that and just giving us the whole, macro level and just filling out the points for us. So how can people exactly invest in Africa? Let's say I was a manager. Let's say I was a guy like Jack Dorsey, or I had money. How would I go ahead and invest within Africa?
Yes, there's several ways to invest, but I would, for beginners and people who just are getting to learn about African emerging economies, I would say, these are some of the top ETFs that people can invest in. And of course, this is not financial advice. Please don't go ahead and.
There's that disclaimer. Every episode, me and Salar got to get it in there somehow. Not necessarily in the introduction anymore, but it always comes up. But I'm glad we got that out the way.
Thanks for that, Jacob.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, these are the top ETFs that anyone who's interested, they can learn more and invest in African economy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And if you don't mind, I'm going to interject here and sort of explain what an ETF is and more of emerging markets. So kind of going off that, as Jacob said, of course, as much as we love to talk finance and numbers, we are not giving financial advice. This is our own opinions and our own opinions. Given it's not affiliated with any other organization, no Street Smarts, no one else. These are strictly Jacob, Harris, and my own our opinion. So please take this lightly. But so going off with that, an ETF is what's known as an exchange traded fund. It's you have the mutual funds, and if you refer to the last video, if you guys want to look at that, you can follow us on LinkedIn and see the last video. But to put it in short, an ETF can be traded on a market. On actual like NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, actual securities lending platforms, you can go ahead and trade the ETFs on, and they trade normally like stocks too. But it's essentially a package. It's a fund. There's a portfolio manager behind it, depending on the structure of the firm. iShares is run by BlackRock. Van Eck is another good one. You have Franklin. You have Global X. But the three large ones that we're mainly going to talk about I believe. One of them is NGE, which is, oh, I'm sorry, ATF, which is through Van Eck. Van Eck this one's very interesting because it tracks some of the largest and most liquid stocks in Africa. It has 114 stocks. It has a country allocation. So Egypt has 21.4%, South Africa has 20.7%, Nigeria 15%, the United Kingdom is 12.6%, and Morocco is 6.6%. So these are some of the country allocations within this ETF. Then you actually have something more within this. Another form is the Global Nigeria Index ETF, or NGE as it trades. This strictly looks at the Nigerian financials, consumer staples, energies, materials, and industrials. So it takes all those top sectors and the top performing stocks and throws it in a package, such as an ETF. And you have the Cloud Atlas Big 50. This one is a very long one. EXSA ETF. It's an ETF that's actually domiciled in South Africa. This exchange-traded fund invests in 50 representative companies across the African continent, including South Africa, through 15 African stock exchanges. These are the three big ones, as Jacob was discussing, and threw it in. And what an emerging market is, it's simply put, it's a market where it's not fully developed. It's on the rise, on the run. How Investopedia would go ahead and say an emerging market is essentially. I just had this thing. Yeah, but what it is, it's a developing nation that's becoming more engaged with the global markets. So now more people are getting into it. It's the key main thing is that there's a lot of liquidity in local debt. There's increased trade volume. There's a lot of foreign direct investment. So when you have Jack Ma, when you have Jay-Z, when you have Jack Dorsey going in and putting in money and helping the development and turning this into a model financial area and a modern economy, it's actually a very good thing. It starts off as low income, less developed, often pre-industrial. Of course, Africa's on the rise now. It then turns into a modern industrial economy with a higher standard of living, and it's actually really cool. Emerging markets, it's one of those really risky things, but it's also really rewarding because not only are you investing in something that has such rapid growth at such exponential level, you're actually technically giving money to something that actually benefits that whole company, not country. Excuse me, not company. So like when you're investing in an emerging market, it's not me just investing in the stock market in South Africa. It's me giving money to that economy so then they can use that to help infrastructure. They can build the roads they need. They can increase their education. They can go ahead and try to fight poverty. So you're literally investing in that country. And it just so happens that it's a very good form of investment. It's a very high return rate of return. But it's a very risky too because it's very hard to gauge, especially with some countries where, like Afghanistan is a very big one, emerging market. But unfortunately, you have a lot of war torn. There's a lot of tribal warfare. There's a lot of war, a lot of conflict going on there. So that's a lot of reasons why the risk. It's a lot of geopolitical stuff going on as well. But thankfully, I see Africa. And it's very interesting. A lot of people have, in my opinion, been sleeping on Africa, but it's kind of been on the rise for the past, like 20, even 30 years. A lot of people have just been looking at it, and you look at it, and it's just always been on an upward trend.
I definitely see a change of tune in the media and how they portray Africa over the last couple of years. I think that's the more important thing because as you were saying, Jacob, over and over that, people's money and interest has always been Africa. But I think how that has been portrayed over the last, 20, 30 years coming up to now has been slowly changing. I think that's oftentimes just as important, maybe not as important, but an important factor nonetheless. But to kind of switch it up, you were mentioning about the innovation and technologically educated youth of Africa that we're seeing now. And I was just wondering if you can kind of talk about the innovation culture of Africa and what are some exciting African industries, startups, and companies that you're seeing that is really helping the development of the continent.
Absolutely. The most exciting industry, I would say, is the fintech space. As you can see, a big chunk of most companies, fintech startups, are payments and lending startups. And just to name a few, BitPesa uses blockchain, M-Pesa, which started in Kenya, where I'm from, which came way before PayPal, way before Venmo, way before Cash App, way before Zelle.
That's awesome.
To bank and send and receive cash easily without having to go to the bank. Just makes life more convenient for businesses and people. Also, I would like to shout out SendWave. It's a great remittances app. A lot of African diaspora use this app to send money back home and contribute towards the economy. But the most interesting company I would love to shout out is called Flutterwave. This small fintech is based in San Francisco. But even despite being based in San Francisco, it's a Nigerian-led fintech. And if you've been following the news, it recently closed $170 million in funding in its Series C. And so definitely it has gained so much attention.
That's awesome.
Because it has actually improved payments across a lot of businesses in Africa. So what they do, Paris and Salah, there's a lot of the payment infrastructure in Africa isn't that developed. There's several modes of payments. So what Flutterwave aims to do is simplify that so that people, business owners and entrepreneurs can easily make payments, receive, and even send cash. And therefore, I'm really excited about this particular startup, Flutterwave.
No, I'm glad to see there's a lot of fintech companies and startups being developed within Africa and outside of Africa, but for Africa as well. But I was wondering, quick question: is there kind of like a Silicon Valley equivalent in Africa? I mean, I've heard people call Kigali in Rwanda kind of like that. But I was wondering if there's like big tech hubs other than that, or is it more decentralized?
Well, again, I'm biased. It's called the Silicon Savannah, and it's in Nairobi, Kenya. But also Kigali is leading the way. But I would say the Silicon Savannah is in Kenya. There's a lot of fintechs, as you can see the previous slide. If you looked up those fintechs, most of them are based in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So from the hometown, that's probably nice. That's nice to see.
Yeah.
Do you want to work for any of them?
Absolutely. Well, that's the goal. To be really good and contribute towards African led.
Of course.
If anyone has a connection to recruiters, hire our man Jacob, please. He's one of the brightest smarts has.
Thank you, Paris. I really appreciate that. One thing I want to mention, though, is so if you've been following Africa and African companies that you've seen recently, you will see that a huge company is Jumia, which is an e-commerce platform. Think of it like an Amazon for Africa. But what happened was there's tons of scandals, and the leadership wasn't even African. It wasn't people questioned it.
German company, right?
Yes. And so I think as much as people want to help, develop Africa, they have to leave it to the Africans themselves. Like, let Africans lead and just support them financially. But of course, not just, giving them a lot of loans at very steep interest rates. But if you really want to help Africa, you can invest, but at a very affordable rates.
Wow, it's wonderful, Jacob. One last thing, a question I wanted to raise you is, how can our listeners right now learn more about the major financial developments within Africa? Are there certain podcasts they can listen to, or are there news sites? What are the best ways for them to get more information on this?
Yeah, my best sources are these two podcasts, the Open Africa podcast and Decode FinTech. They talk about developments, just finance and markets, econ related content, but also rely a lot on Bloomberg Africa. They cover tons of.
Oh, did we lose them?
Jacob, can you hear us?
We're filming this live, guys. So we're full improv here. So I guess you guys get to experience the. Oh,
hi, Jacob. Can you hear us? Hello.
Yes, I can hear.
There you go.
Yeah.
We lost you right when you were going into the first.
Yeah, I lost you a little bit.
Right into the first podcast.
I'm back.
Okay. Would you like to explain the podcast again? We kind of lost you as you were explaining.
Oh, you lost me at the podcast. So
yeah.
They're two fun podcasts. One of them is Nigerian. The other one, I think, is sponsored by iShares or something like that. But they're both podcasts that educate recent developments in Africa, be it finance or just general economic developments that you can learn more about Africa. And also Bloomberg Africa, you can subscribe to it. Also, I'm a huge Wall Street Journal reader. You just go all the way to the international section and look for Africa, and you can learn some. You can learn a thing or two right there.
Yeah, myself as a Wall Street Journal reader, I love how you can just flip on the international markets and then it has everything sorted out. So you can just go and find Africa, and it's really cool. I mean, some of the articles they write are just completely fascinating, and I never would have imagined. And it's like it's a fun thing to do. You get so much news here in the U.S., and I feel so disconnected, and I want to get news everywhere else. And that's something I do. I just throw on the international news section and just have fun, read a few articles, and it's really cool just seeing the developments. And it also changes the mindset and concepts that you have and of other places, and it really just truly opens your mind. And I love trying to get a new lens on different articles and different concepts.
Yeah, I love the financial spin that the Wall Street Journal does, because oftentimes if you're reading, like, say you'll read the same subject but from another news organization, unfortunately have a political spin on it sometimes, and it won't just get straight to the numbers, which all of us are numbers guys here, so
yeah.
It's sometimes better just to get just to the facts first instead of the spin.
Yeah.
But was there any closing remarks you would like to talk about, Jacob, about Africa? But I thought this podcast was great and just encompassing us every aspect of just the opportunity and great things that are happening there right now. So it was really great having you today.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show, Jacob. We appreciate
having
you.
If you have any other closing remarks,
yeah,
we'd love to hear them.
For sure. I would say be educated on what's happening in Africa. Read, listen, watch some YouTube videos that cover African markets, because it's going to be big in the next coming years, and you don't want to get left behind. Please educate yourself and listen to Africans themselves and watch them lead. I'm very positive of the developments in the recent months and recent years, and I can't wait to see where we're gonna go next.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Jacob, for having us. We love having you on here. We love having, just talking to you. And thank you very much for bringing this aspect that a lot of people don't know about now in ways it's easy to access. This information, just by you coming on here, a lot of people will go and search and educate themselves more and go ahead. And, the more our spread that we do, the more shares, the more likes that we get, it just further perpetuates the growth of Africa and the more bringing into the culture, bringing into the news of what a great country it is, or what a great continent, and just every good thing about it. So thank you very much for bringing this to everyone's attention.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me in.
Of course, our pleasure. Have a good night.
All right, call it there. We call it there, Salar.
We'll call it there.
All right, thank you for joining us, guys. This has been another episode of Fin Talk. Can't believe it's been our 4th episode, and thank you, Jacob, again.
Thanks so much, Jacob.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.